Hey divas, editing Andrew popping in. So as I'm editing this, I'm realizing that my microphone wasn't plugged into my camera, though I could hear my mic feed in the headphones. So I'm not sure what happened there. So my audio this episode is from my camera, which does not have the best microphone. There's a lot of feedback. There is some background noise. I have tried to edit it out as much as I can, but my software can only edit as much as it can, so I sincerely apologize that the audio is not as crisp as it usually is. If this is your first episode, I'm so sorry that it's a terrible first impression, but I do hope that you listen anyway. It was a really good episode, so I didn't want to scrap it because I had some very fun conversations to chat about with Taylor Swift and Wendy Williams, Addison Rae. There was a lot going on this week, so I didn't want to scratch the episode, so I do apologize for the audio. I hope you can forgive me, and I hope you can still enjoy the episode, and I promise you next week I will do a test and make sure that we are not fucking up our audio. But with that, let's get into the episode.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Too Pop to Handle. I'm your host, Andrew Nucatola, your pop culture best friend, and as always, I hope you guys are having a fabulous week. I am coming at you guys this week as a new person, a new man. I am entering a new chapter, a new era, whatever you want to call it. And I am so excited to share with you guys that I am officially entering my reading era. And by that, I mean I have read 42 pages of a book that I purchased on Saturday. But you know what? It is 42 pages more than I have read in the last 5 years. And for that, I am patting myself on the back. I'm not proud to admit that I haven't picked up a physical book. I've listened to audiobooks. I have done my fair share, not my fair share. I think I've listened to like 6 audiobooks in the last 5 years, which is so embarrassing. And I know I should be more cultured and diving into more literature. And you know what? Turning 30, it changes you. And also just being like, finding the internet being a very dark and daunting place will also change that. So I've been having this itch over the last few months where I'm like, I really feel like I need to consume media that isn't behind a screen. Like I need something else to just like entertain my brain that isn't on a TV or a computer or a phone. Now, of course, my job both professionally and, with TikTok and doing the podcast and things like that and like whatever I'm building with this is always going to involve a screen. I'm staring at a screen right now in my viewfinder. I have my laptop on my lap. My phone is right next to me. We live in a world in which screens are just inescapable. However, I've been doing some work with my therapist, and we've been trying to figure out ways where I can kind of like limit how I am spending my time in terms of on the screen, because there's lots of benefits to, of course, social media and doing the podcast and like connecting with you guys. And like I said, my job professionally, there's no world in which I can do my job without a phone or the internet. But I do think this is going to be a very healthy endeavor to me because as somebody who is always on their phone and always tapped into the internet, it's a daunting place. There's some darkness going on the internet these days. There's always been some darkness on the internet, but especially these last few months, there's been a lot going on in the world where I am just like, you know what? I don't need to be reading this 24/7, and nobody should be. Growing up, especially like in the age where social media was becoming so constantly accessible, like I went from having to only be able to access MySpace and Twitter and things on a desktop computer at home to holding it in my hand and being able to access posts 24/7, post whatever I want 24/7, see what everybody else is saying 24/7 in this little box. And I'm not saying anything groundbreaking or anything new, but I think I've just come to a point where I'm like, I don't need to be reading this all the time. And I'm excited. I'm excited for this kind of new hobby and endeavor. And now, of course, like I said, I've read 40 pages. I am not saying I am, a lit professor. I am not, a reader per se, but I'm very excited to kind of dive into this. The book that I picked up is called Tell Me How to Be by Neil Patel. It's basically a mother and son telling the story of the 1-year anniversary of the husband and father's death coming up, which I know very dreary, but as somebody who is in the Dead Mom Club, I can read something about a dead parent and like find some comfort in it in some weird way. But it goes back and forth between like the mom side and then the son side, and they're kind of coming home to celebrate the 1 year of his passing, and she's got some secrets, he's got some secrets, he's also gay, so it's kind of interesting to read about, a gay son in the situation, and he's kind of in the closet, kind of not. I don't want to give anything away. I mean, again, I've only read 40 pages, so I'm just like I'm in the intro part of this book. But so far, so good. I've been really enjoying it, and I'm excited to kind of go on this journey of like finding out what kind of books I enjoy, because for the most part, I've always kind of been like a memoir kind of person. Oh, which I also picked up. Her name was Ultraviolet. She was one of Andy Warhol's superstars. And she put out a memoir, I believe it was in 1998, I want to say. It's called Famous for 15 Minutes or something along those lines. They had that in the bookstore too. I think it was like $5. So I picked that up as well, which is also fun. I picked up some secondhand books. So, you know, we're saving some money, we're doing good for the environment, and we're starting a new hobby. But to that, I do really enjoy memoirs, but I don't want to only be reading memoirs. So for just a really interesting and good story. So I'm excited for it. We will see. I don't know. I'm excited. And I will, yeah, keep you guys updated on my reading journey. I was like, I need to come on here and just like make a joke of the fact that I have not read a book in 5 years and just, you know, really just, you know, poke some fun at myself. But that being said, I hope everybody is having a wonderful week. I've had quite the eventful week. I went to see Addison Rae last week at the Brooklyn Paramount, which is my favorite venue of all of New York. I always say it's one of my favorites, but I have officially established it as my favorite venue in all of New York City. It is just perfection. And on the topic of perfection, Miss Addison Rae, I mean, I just cannot get enough of her. You guys know I have been loving her. I love her album. I love everything she is doing. And this tour was so much fun. Now, was it the best, you know, vocal performance of my life? Was it the most high budget tour of my life? No. But you know what it was? It was authentic and it was truly Addison to her core, and she was up there living her pop star fantasy, and for that, I will buy every single second of it. I had the time of my life, and so did every other homosexual in that room. It was such a good show. I had so much fun, and I just love watching people live their true, authentic, like, kooky self, even, you know, whatever it may be. Like, she was really up there being carried around on like a giant wheeled staircase, and then had like $ confetti shooting into the crowd, and she had a giant gate with an A that came out at the beginning and the end. And I was like, you know what? Hell yeah, do what you gotta do. Let your freak flag fly, and let's go Addison Rae. I was obsessed. We're gonna talk about Addison a little bit later as well, so stay tuned for that. And then over the weekend, I was actually invited to go see this new off-Broadway show called Torera, which is now playing at the Women's Project Theater on the Upper West Side, which, shame on me, I didn't even know that this theater existed until I was invited there, and I feel like I must have missed out on so many incredible performances that they've put on over the years. It's actually the nation's oldest and largest theater company dedicated to developing, producing, and promoting the work of women artists, which we love to see. But like I said, the show that I saw was called Torera, and it's now playing there. It's playing until October 26th, I believe. And it was just, it had so much culture and heart, and it was so good. I absolutely loved it. It follows the story of this girl who is growing up in Mexico, and her dream is to become a bullfighter, but of course traditionally bullfighters were men, and women were kind of pushed to stay home and keep the house clean. And, you know, her mom is encouraging her to learn how to cook all these traditional Mexican dishes, and telling her, you know, oh, this is how a woman acts, not how you should be acting. You know, you need to get married and think, you know, the traditional woman stays at home, man goes out and does whatever they want kind of thing. But she kind of defeats all odds and follows her dream and her passion. And the show has a lot of heart, and it really plucks at your heartstrings, and it was just wonderful. And I mean, especially in a world in which we are living today, where women's voices and Latina voices are not being uplifted and are kind of being silenced at any chance our government can take, I will take any opportunity to promote, support, and just, you know, show any love to a show that is encouraging and uplifting all of these voices. So if you are in New York and looking for a night out, I believe tickets are like $40, so it's very affordable, which we also love affordable theater, and the show was great. I seriously loved it so much. There was really fun audience participation. So it was just a really fun afternoon. They're playing it through October 26th, I believe. So lots of time to go see it. Definitely get your tickets. It was fabulous. And then on Monday night, last night, I spent my night with the one and only Taylor Swift and Jimmy Fallon, which was such a fun experience and such a crazy sentence to say, but we will talk more about Taylor on Fallon and, you know, the elephant in the room that is the life of a showgirl in just a little bit. But yeah, it's been a very eventful week. I feel like I've just been like, go, go, go. But that being said, all great things, very thankful for these opportunities, and I'm having a lot of fun doing the things and telling you guys about them. But with that, we have a show to do, so let's get this show on the road and keep things going. You guys know the drill. We always kick things off with the My Drew releases, our new music releases from last week, and our new music releases coming up this week, but we're gonna switch things around a bit. We're gonna talk about the new music coming up this week, and then we're gonna reverse a little bit and go back to the music that came out last week, because like I said, the elephant in the room is The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift, and of course, I have lots of opinions and lots of things to say, but I also have some updates about the album, so we're gonna talk all about Life of a Showgirl in just a moment, but I didn't want to gyp you guys on the wonderful music coming out this Friday, because we have some really exciting releases. First things first, Pink Panthers is releasing a remix album to her latest album, Fancy That features some of my favorite artists, Jade, Rachel Chinariri, Kylie Minogue, Zara Larsson, Kate Trinata, Raven Lenae, and so many more. She's basically taking the latest album that she put out, which I really enjoyed, taking that and remixing it, very a la Brat, and it's still the same but completely different, whatever that album was called, like very much just like taking her project and remixing it, which I'm so excited for. And I mean, the names on this list, I mean, Jade, Rachel, Kylie, Zara, like big names on this list, and this is only, I'm gonna say a fraction of the people who are gonna be on this album. I am so excited to see what they all do on this album. Is going to be fabulous. And then we also have a new album from Khalid coming out, which I am so excited for. You guys know I have been loving every single, I mean, he's put out two, but the two singles that he has put out, I have absolutely loved. So I am really, really excited for this album. I think I'm going to love it, because the sound of the other two singles have just been so good and right on my alley. So I'm really stoked for that. The album is called After the Sun Goes Down, and I cannot wait to see what happens after the sun goes down. And then the final release that we have coming up this week that's on my radar, Doechii and Almeida are putting out a collab called Beat a Bitch Up, which I feel like we haven't gotten a new Doechii song in quite some time. I guess the last thing she did was Nosebleeds after the Grammys, and that was just like the one-off kind of freestyle thing that she did. So new song from Doechii coming out this Friday. I am very excited. And those are all the releases that I'm looking forward to this week. However, of course, we need to reverse a little bit and go to the releases from last week, because we had none other than Miss Taylor Swift. The Life of a Showgirl is officially here, and my God, have there been more opinions on this album than I think I've ever seen on an album in history. Like there are hot takes and think pieces being written about this album that I think we all need to take a breath. And I think we all need to take a step back and really consider that this is a pop album. If you like the album, if you dislike the album, it is just an album. It is simply not that serious. And the way that people are truly losing their minds over whether or not they think this album is great, or they hate it, or they're attacking people for saying why they don't like it, I just think we all need to take a deep breath, take a second, and remember, it's pop music. It's not that serious. And now I'm the first to admit, initially on the first listen, I was let down. I was disappointed by The Life of a Showgirl. However, I wasn't losing sleep, and I wasn't going up to bat, and I wasn't going to be ripping people apart or ripping Taylor apart on the internet, because it is just a pop album. It is not that deep. It is pop music. We're supposed to be having fun, people. Like, this is supposed to be what is fun about life when there is so much else going on in the world that is miserable. But my biggest problem with The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift is the fact that it was marketed completely wrong. We were marketed this big pop album, this showgirl-esque, va-va-voom, lights, camera, action, big pop album. Travis Kelce said himself it is 12 bangers. Taylor said she is giving us folklore level writing with 1989 and Reputation style production, and it is just not that. It's not bad, but it is not the album that was promoted to us. And the only thing that I can think as to why, the only reason I can think as to why this happened is I do think Taylor's focus group and her team has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller as Taylor Swift has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. She has people in her circle that she likes to work with and she likes to, cycle through. I mean, she's either with Jack Antonoff, Aaron Dessner, Shellback, or Max Martin. These are really the ones that we're seeing come through. And, she'll have some collaborators here and there, but she protects the family, as she says on Father Figure. And I think we're at a point where people are almost afraid to tell her no or something, or they're everyone is just telling her everything is great. And it's just there's one thing about being positive and optimistic and excited for your friend, the friend in question being Taylor Swift. But if If a friend came to me and was like, hey, I am going to release an album full of pop songs, and then played Eldest Daughter for me or Father Figure, I would just be like, hey, this isn't bad, but this isn't the pop album that you are promising people. And that was my biggest issue with it. And maybe I set my expectations too high. Maybe it was a marketing disconnect. I don't know. What I will say, and what I think what would have solved the entire issue of The Life of a Showgirl, is once I saw the Fate of Ophelia music video and heard Taylor kind of break down what the music video was about and what her inspiration for the album was based on that video, it clicked. I got it. She was saying that the Fate of Ophelia music video takes us through the eras of showgirls through time. So it starts with Ophelia in the beginning in like the 1800s, whenever, I don't know, whenever that was. It starts there. And then we see Vegas showgirls. We see showgirls from the 70s. We see modern day showgirls. We're seeing showgirls of all different genres and all different types, which makes so much more sense than the typical Vegas showgirl that was promoted on the album. I think Taylor should have started from the jump promoting this album as the life of showgirls through different eras, because then the album would have made a lot more sense as to why we're getting such a vast majority of genres on this album. You know, we're really hearing a lot of different sounds that don't add up to what Taylor was saying we were going to get. Especially, I keep looking back at that playlist that she released when she announced the album, and like looking at those songs and looking at the track list for this album, they're not the same. Like we definitely missed the mark in that sense. And the first day or so, I was like really let down. I was really disappointed. I was like, damn, I wanted to be shaking my ass, dancing around my room, listening to this new Taylor Swift album from track 1 to track 12, because that's what I was promised, and that's just not what I got. However, once I swallowed my pride and got over it, it's not that bad of an album. Like, I think people are really making this out to be like it is the worst album they have ever heard in their lives, and that's just not true. And don't get me wrong, I'm not denying that some of the lyrics on this album are incredibly cringy, but hasn't Taylor Swift always been a little cringy? Like, isn't that she kind of leans into the millennial cringe when she needs to, and then she leans into the songwriter, poetic side of her brain when she needs to. Like, it's kind of always how she's written. I just think the lens in which people view Taylor Swift now compared to even looking at Midnight's, like Karma is a Cat purring in my lap, like that's just as cringy as His Love Was the Key That Opened My Thighs. Like, but somehow, I mean, that did, cause an uproar when that came out, but now we're just making such a bigger fuss out of this album, and like looking back even further than Midnight's, We Were Never Ever Getting Back Together, Shake It Off, Look What You Made Me Do, Me. Like, she has always given us kind of songs with pedestrian lyrics. And I don't say pedestrian to drag her, because I'm obviously a huge fan of Taylor Swift, and I love all of the songs that I just listed. I embrace the cringe. I just think the lens in which we are viewing Taylor Swift nowadays, she's like, somehow gets more famous by the minute, which I didn't think was even possible. I thought, honestly, I remember walking into the 1989 World Tour and being like, wow, Taylor Swift will never be more famous than she is right now. And that was 11 years ago. And she's more famous than she has ever been, and there's like no sign of stopping. So I just think the level in which people hold Taylor Swift to, whether you're a fan or whether you're not a fan, people just expect so much more from her. And I'm not defending, this album isn't groundbreaking. It's not the greatest thing I've ever heard, but I do think the think pieces that are being written and said on TikTok about this album are just a little out of touch and fucking insane, and it's a lot. And like I said, I didn't love the album the first time I listened to it. It's like that TikTok audio where it's like, so here's the thing, you're gonna hear the song, you're not gonna get it the first time, you're not even gonna get it the second time, but by that third time, it's finally gonna hit. That's kind of how this album felt, and there are some songs where I'm like, I will never listen to this song again. Like Eldest Daughter, not for me, probably will never go back to it. Father Figure, not really for me either. Not a bad song, but just not a song that I'm going to keep in my rotation. However, there are some songs on this album that I absolutely fucking love, and those songs include Honey, favorite song on the album. I love Honey, and I don't think it is getting enough credit. It is so good. I'm obsessed with it. Fate of Ophelia, probably one of her best singles in years. Honestly, might be her best lead single ever. Possibly. Like, it is incredibly written, incredibly produced. The music video, perfect. It is one of my favorite music videos Taylor Swift has ever put out. It is incredible, and you cannot deny that. Opalite, banger. I love that song. It is so fun. It is so bubbly. It is so just, I just love it. It is such a good song. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't look at this album and say it's bad when a song like Opalite, when a song like Fate of Ophelia, when a song like Honey is on the album. Is it the best album I've ever heard in my life? No. But it doesn't need to be. Not every album's going to be groundbreaking. It's okay to just put out an album that is fun and not that serious. The lyrics on this song definitely make me feel a little uncomfortable just considering it's about Travis Kelce's penis, but Wood is a fucking bop. Like, that melody, even like just like the superstitious piece of it, like, you know, she's like the wishing on a falling star and the knocking on wood, and like, yeah, of course there's a hidden message within, you know, the love being the key opening her thighs, which, like, you know what, good for you, girl. And she is obviously alluding to Travis's redwood tree, which, yeah, like, maybe I don't need to be singing along to a song about Travis Kelce's penis, but like, go the fuck up. Our girl is getting laid and she is feeling good about it. And you know what? We support sex positivity at Too Pop to Handle. So cringe or not, Wood is a fucking bop. And then another one of my favorites is Ruin the Friendship. I love it. And this is a song that I did not get at first. I was like, why are we singing about high school? Like, I was listening to it and I was like, girl, you're 35 years old. Why are we thinking about being in high school? And then that final verse comes where she sings about him passing away and her flying home and going to the grave. And it just plucked on my heartstrings. And I was like, oh, this is beautiful storytelling. Like, it's telling the story. Yeah, I was like, I don't need a 35-year-old woman to be singing about high school anymore. Like, we kind of need to hang that up. But then when the story comes full circle, I get it and I understand it. And I definitely jumped the gun a little too much in judging this song. But I'm seeing so many people posting that they can relate to this song, and it's heartbreaking to be able to say that, like, somebody was in love with someone in high school or had a sweetheart that they lost touch with or whatever, and then they passed away and they never got to tell them what they wanted. And that's the real message of this song, is like, speak your mind. Speak Now. Hello, literally her third album. Was it third? Yeah, third. Literally a message she has been spreading since she was 18 years old. Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace is literally the message of Ruin the Friendship. And the fact that people are relating to it is breaking my heart, but I also must feel very nice to have a song to relate to in such a unique situation, if that makes sense. But those are my favorites. Like I said, Honey, Fate of Ophelia, Opalite, Wood, Ruin the Friendship. The rest of the songs, they're not bad. I do like the title track, Life of a Showgirl. It's not my favorite. Like, I don't know how often I'll be revisiting it, but I do understand the importance of it. And I mean, having Taylor and Sabrina on a track together is just fabulous. So I appreciate the messaging of it. I don't know if sonically it's a song that I'm going to revisit that often, but I do like it. I do enjoy the song. And then, of course, the brat green elephant in the room on top of the orange elephant that is the entire album is actually romantic. So I want to preface this by saying I am going to do an entire album analysis breakdown episode with Delaney again, who was on when we did Tortured Poets Department. Her and I broke down the entire album, track by track, lyric by lyric. It ended up being 3 hours. I promise you, Life of a Showgirl will not be 3 hours long because we cannot do that again. That was insane, though people loved it. It's one of my most listened to episodes, so for that I appreciate it. I know I got a lot of new listeners from that, so thank you if you're still sticking around, excuse me. But Delaney and I are going to do an entire breakdown of this album, lyric by lyric, track by track. So I'm not going to go too in depth on the lyrics of Actually Romantic, but I obviously have to bring it up because of the Charlie XCX of it all. And so my thoughts are, how do I say this? Sympathy is a Knife, the song that is written about Taylor Swift on Brat, is not a diss track. It is a song about Charlie's insecurities and how she feels comparing herself to Taylor Swift. It is her saying, I feel like this about myself, and this person doesn't help the situation. Now, of course, we don't know what has happened behind the scenes. Of course, Charlie and Taylor were together a lot in 2022 while Charlie was dating George and Taylor was dating Maddie. And like, Taylor has said that she found out somebody who this song is about, is obviously about Charlie, was talking a lot of shit behind her back, which isn't cool. Great, of course, I agree. However, I just don't think this diss track is doing what Taylor Swift thinks it's doing. And I don't say that in a way to say that the song is bad or like she shouldn't have written the diss track, because you guys know I love both parties in this situation. But I just am like listening to this song and I'm almost like, I wish it was either meaner or you just didn't say it. Like, calling Charlie XCX a cokehead chihuahua is it really as mean as Taylor Swift thinks it is? Like, it seems very juvenile in that sense. And like, in when you're looking at a song like Wood, you can have some juvenile pedestrian lyrics. It's fun, it's silly, it's whatever. When you're writing a diss track, go for the jugular or don't do it at all. You know, like, I want you to go even further, and I just don't think Taylor did anything groundbreaking on this song. Like, all she did was like give the Gaylor something to kind of celebrate and be like, wow, Taylor admitted that a woman gets her wet. Like, she's really just feeding into this kind of crazy narrative that the Gaylors are writing online, which I don't subscribe to that at all. Let me make that very clear. But I mean, it's a very well-known narrative, and you being like, oh wow, this woman talking shit about me is making me wet, like, you're really just making a worse case for yourself. But that is not the point. I will go deeper into this, and I'm actually very excited to have a discussion about this with Delaney, because I know Delaney and I have opposite views on this song, I believe. And I'm a much bigger Charlie XCX fan than Delaney is, and Delaney's a much bigger Taylor Swift fan than I am. So I'm excited for us to have that conversation. And Delaney and I have been very good friends for longer than I want to admit. God, we met in 2009, so almost 20 years, which is insane. So we're not going to go on this podcast and like fight with each other. Also, we're adults and can have a mature conversation, but I'm going to reserve all of my full in-depth thoughts about this song and the entire album for the album breakdown. But that's kind of how I'm feeling on the album as of now. Like I said earlier, I did have the absolute pleasure of going to Jimmy Fallon on Monday night and seeing our Showgirl in the flesh, which was insane. I mean, I've seen Taylor up teen times. I don't even know how many times I've seen her at this point. I went to the Eras Tour twice. I went to Reputation 3 times in 1989. I went to Red. I've seen her. I met her at Reputation. Like, I've seen her many of times in many different size rooms, and I think the last time I was like, okay, well, I'm never going to see Taylor Swift in a room this size, so when I saw her at Hammerstein Ballroom in 2019 at Amazon Prime Day. It was her, Dua Lipa, SZA, and Becky G, I believe it was, performing at the Hammerstein Ballroom, which is like a small venue here in New York, and I was like, wow, I will in this small of a room again. And then I saw her taping Jimmy Fallon, and it was an even smaller room, and it was so insane to be sitting in like a 200 capacity room with Taylor Swift. Like, I was like, this is the biggest pop star on the planet, and she is sitting in this room with me just like having a conversation with Jimmy Fallon. It was such a bizarre thing, and like, I wouldn't say I was like starstruck, because like I said, I've met Taylor, I've seen her so many times, but it was like seeing Taylor at this level of fame in that situation, it was so crazy, especially considering like Taylor does press every like 6 years. Like, she is not someone who is always on a press tour. Like, she doesn't always do the junkets or whatever. So like, for her to be doing it for an album that is so many eyes on it and making such an uproar, I was like, I am so honored to be in the room while she is talking about this album, because there was such a controversy online about it, and like, the best way to really digest an album is hearing it from the artist's mouth of himself. So it was really fun to like listen to some of the songs with her and like hear what she thinks about it and things like that. It was almost like if a secret session happened for this album, but like it was at Jimmy Fallon, if that makes sense. What I will say, her engagement ring, what you thought Taylor Swift's engagement ring size was, take that and multiply it by 50. This ring is fucking huge. Seeing it, I was probably like 10 rows or so, maybe 12, 15 rows back from the stage. And then there was some feet, in between the stage and the chairs. So I'm not good with measurement. I don't know how far away I was from this woman, but her ring, you could see it from the very last row. This thing is fucking huge, and it's beautiful. There was a lot of controversy online, as Taylor Swift always has controversy, of was the ring pretty, was it not? It's fucking stunning, and it's fucking gigantic. Also, I need to just say, she was glowing. Like, she was radiating happiness in a way that, like, you can just tell she is in such a different headspace in the most least parasocial way possible. Like, she truly was glowing and like buzzing happiness. You can tell that like she, even if the reviews are getting to her or affecting her, she's putting on a brave face. Like, I truly don't think she gives a fuck what anybody thinks about this album or thinks about anything she does anymore. I think she is truly at a place in her life where she has found peace within herself, within her relationship, within the art that she's creating, with whatever she does. And she is like, I don't give a fuck what the critics are saying. I don't care what haters are saying. I don't care if you don't like it. I don't care if you do. She doesn't care. She's like, I am simply creating my art, giving it to the world, and that's that. You can like it or you can not like it. I don't care. And something that she said that I thought was really important to Taylor Swift and just like the lore of her. She was saying that one of my biggest compliments is when I meet a fan or I meet somebody and it's, 5 years after an album comes out. I think she used Reputation as the example for Fallon. She said it on Zane Lowe as well, which I'll get to that in a second. But she was saying how like nothing gives me a better feeling than like someone's like, I didn't get Reputation when it first came out, but now all these years my favorite album. And she was kind of explaining, I'm pretty sure this part aired on Fallon. If it didn't, it was just exclusive. But she was saying how she loves when people can like understand an album years after it comes out, because it kind of shows like her music is growing. And I think that's such a great point, because with any artist, I mean, I think about it all the time. Like when Art Pop by Lady Gaga came out, I did not understand that album. I did not like it. And I was a huge Gaga fan at this point. Like I was willing to go to the grave for Lady Gaga back in this era. And then Art Pop came out and I just didn't understand it. And then like 5-6 years later, I remember revisiting it and I was like, wait, it's finally clicking. Like that's what's really cool about music, is like it never changes, you change. So maybe an album comes out and it's not ready for you at that time, but there might come a time in your life where it is important and it does make sense and it does click. And like I do think a lot of Taylor's albums, she has spanned so many genres, and her lyrics are always kind of just storytelling about things she's going through in her life. So as her fans grow and maybe get to that age, whether it's actually that age or like their brain is, developing into that age or that era of their life, or they're going through a breakup, or their mom gets sick, like she sings about, and soon you'll get better, or a best friend stabs you in the back and you suddenly turn your Reputation, or you suddenly move to New York and start your life over and you're 1989. Like, there's kind of an album for everybody, and not just Taylor, this is for all artists, but just speaking of the Showgirl, at hand, she was just saying how like she loves when someone says like, I didn't like this album at first, but now I love it. And I think that's gonna be what happened with Life of a Showgirl. We saw it happen with Solar Power with Lorde. I feel like when that album came out, a lot of people did not like it at first. They were like, I don't fuck with it. This is not my vibe. And then like that following summer, I remember it was like literally a year later, people were like, wait, I get it now. Like something clicked with people and they understood it. It's just music is not always meant for you at that time. And I think that's the beautiful thing about an album or about music, is that maybe right now you're not living your Life of a Showgirl era. Maybe you're not in love or engaged or getting dicked down by a redwood tree like Travis Kelce has. But maybe one day you will, and I hope you are. And I hope that Life of a Showgirl can click for you one day, because it's not as bad as everybody is making it out to be. And I like I said, I was disappointed at first too. I was expecting an album full of new romantics. I wanted 12 classic pop banger tracks, and we frankly did not get that. And that's okay. We can all take a deep breath and it will all be fine. The sun is still gonna come up tomorrow. And you know what? We'll have a new Taylor Swift album probably in about 12 months. She seems to be on a yearly cycle at this point. So if you don't like this one, get ready for the next one, because I'm sure there's another one coming soon. But all of that being said, she's been on this press junket, like I said, and her Zane Lowe interview came out today, which Zane Lowe is just always an interview that I'm going to tune into. I feel like he is just like the creme de la creme of interviewers when it comes to pop music. So I tuned into this, and the quotes that I pulled from it is that she said, if it's the first week of my album release and you're saying my name or the album title, you're helping. I have a lot of respect for people's subjective opinions on art. I'm not the art police. Everybody's allowed to feel how they want. What I often love is seeing my fans say that I used to be someone who didn't relate to Reputation, and now that I've been through or see some other things in my life, that's my favorite album. Or I used to be a fearless girly, but now I'm obsessed with Evermore. I have such an eye on legacy when I'm making my music. I know what I made, I know I adore it. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Like she's saying where like her album maybe is not for you right now, but eventually it might be, and maybe it won't be, and that's also fine. Like I can confidently say, I don't think I will ever be a Tortured Poets Department girl. It's just not for me. It's not a bad album. Then it's just not for me. I don't listen to it. I truly, on my life, could not tell you the last time I pressed play on that album ever. Genuinely, I don't know. And that's okay. I'm not getting online and saying it's a bad album. I might say it's a little boring to me because I do think it's boring, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just my opinion. And I just think people need to learn how to decipher their opinion from like jumping down somebody's throat. And like I had so many friends being like, what do you mean you don't like this album? It's so good on Friday. And I was just like, it's just not clicking for me yet. And then by like Sunday I was like, you know what, maybe I am moving my shoulders a little bit. Maybe I am, it's clicking for me. I'm finally getting it. It's just, you got to let things grow. I also think we live in an age, similar to what I was saying at the top of the show, where like we are so connected to this fucking brick in our hands that like we are seeing the opinions of millions of people as soon as a song drops. Like you should not be forming opinions on music or any type of art. If you're consuming art and immediately saying, I love this, I hate this, like right away, like you're not really letting yourself sulk in the art. Like art is meant to be digested and like truly enjoyed. And like, yeah, you can sonically love an album right away or dislike it, but you need to really sit with it and grow with it. And I just think the fact that like we see opinions on things before we even have a chance to listen to it without any opinions, like without any shades or blockers on, like it completely warps the way that we consume media. And I even felt bad. I was listening to it and I was like texting my friends about it and I was like, oh fuck, some of these people haven't listened yet. And now they're going into it knowing that I don't like it. And now they're probably going to think because we have similar music tastes, they're not going to like it. So like, I just think we all should keep our opinions to ourselves until like 48 hours after an album comes out, and then we can talk about it. It should be like when you go to like a movie screening and are not allowed to talk about it until like after the NDA lifts, whatever, what is it called? Embargo. Like until the embargo lifts, you're not allowed to talk about an album. Like I think there should be a new law or something, because it just like we need to be able to consume art and enjoy art without conflicting opinions, at least for the first listen or the first watch, because otherwise it's just melting our brains and our brains are all becoming one and we're just falling into the machine, I guess. This got really deep really fast, and especially when I'm talking about the life of a showgirl, like it does not need to be this deep. That being said, the final thing before we wrap up the life of a showgirl for this episode, of course, we will talk about it with Delaney probably next week. We're going to talk about some of the things that she did with this album, because she's breaking some records as she does. So, across all streaming platforms, The Life of a Showgirl had the biggest album first day streams on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and all the rest of them. The biggest first day streams for any album of all time. The Life of a Showgirl becomes Taylor Swift's biggest opening week in the US based off of one-day pure sales alone, with 2.7 million sales in one day. It surpasses the Tortured Poets Department that had 2.61 million copies in a day. And now, of course, with that statistic, everybody is bringing up Adele in 25 and the 3.38 million copies that she sold in the first week of that album coming out. Taylor is clearly challenging this. I do believe she has surpassed 3 million sales in the first week. So she very well could outsell Adele's 25 album, which is insane considering when Adele's 25 album came out, we were not in a streaming era yet. Streaming was kind of a newer concept, and it wasn't the way everybody consumed music. You were still going to the store and buying physical media to consume it, or at least buying it on iTunes to digest this album. So for Taylor Swift to be doing this in a streaming era is fucking insane. And of course, I am not negating the fact that she also released 19 fucking variants for this album as well. You guys know how I feel about the variants and the different, buy this version for the bonus track or for this or that. She hadn't done bonus tracks, but she's done like acoustic versions and voice memos and all of that bullshit, which I will reserve my opinions on because I've told you guys enough. You know how I feel about it. I fucking hate when people do this. But Taylor Swift is the queen of multiple versions, and you know what? We will see. Maybe she'll beat Adele. I kind of want Adele to keep the record. I think it is major for Adele because it is Adele and she releases music like once every fucking 15 years. So I do think, considering that Adele broke this record pre-streaming, without releasing an album every single year, having a giant engagement announcement, having the biggest tour in the entire world, like I do think that record was more impressive than if Taylor does it for this album. But again, I'm not talking shit. I'm just speaking my mind. It is what it is. Anyway, back to Taylor Swift. She also broke her own record for the most streamed song in a single day on Spotify with The Fate of Ophelia, getting 30.987 million streams. I literally had to read that number twice because I was like, that does not seem right. 30.987 million streams in a day, which surpasses Fortnite that had 25.204 million streams in a day. 30 million streams in a day on one song is fucking insane, you guys. Like, that is so many streams, and that's on one platform. Like, that is insane. And then rounding this out, she made $33 million domestically and $46 million globally during the one weekend theatrical run of the official release party of A Showgirl, which was at not just AMC, all movie theaters over the weekend. I did see it on Friday, and like I said, it did really give me a better idea of the album concept, and it was very beneficial to hear Taylor talk through the tracks because it made me understand them a lot better. So I don't know if she's going to release it for streaming or if she's going to put out, any of the, maybe the voice memos that she's releasing now are those tidbits. I don't know. But if you can find Taylor talking about these tracks, don't pay for them. Just like find them online and like TikTok or whatever. Like, she did a whole podcast actually on Amazon Music, or like a whole like album breakdown, talking about each track, talking about like what the songs are about and things like that. And if you don't want to listen to Taylor Swift, like I said, we will have a Too Pop to Handle version with me and our official Taylor Swift correspondent Delaney coming out, I would say probably next week. I think I'm going to try to film with her this weekend. I need to text her and like get that all situated, but I do think we could probably record this weekend, and then maybe I'll have that out on Monday for you guys. But stay tuned on my socials, I'll let you guys know. But we will talk more Life of a Showgirl on our album breakdown. But now that I've talked about Taylor Swift for the majority of this episode, should we get into some other people? Because there have been other things going on in the world. I know Taylor Swift is kind of dominating, you know, the space right now, but there are some other things going on in the pop culture world, believe it or not. Kicking it off with a pop star that I love oh so much, Miss Addison Rae, who we chatted about at the top of the show. She is on the cover of W Magazine's The Original magazine this month, and the byline is a pop star tailor-made for today, and I think that is the perfect way to describe Addison Rae. So I pulled some quotes and some things from it, and then we'll just chat about this interview and how I'm feeling about Addison in this current pop music space. So she said that I trust my intuition, I trust my gut, I trust my heart, I trust my body language, I trust my physical self, and I love communicating through my body, music, sound, and energy. TikTok was only an opportunity to push myself towards something that I always wanted, the dreams and hopes that were always there. There was something inside me that I refused to let disappear. By nurturing it consistently, whether by posting to TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr, or whatever outlet I could find, I wasn't going to let that go. And then she goes on to say that the magic really happens when you start creating purely for yourself. People connect with it so much more because there's something genuine to discover. I seek fearlessness, I want to be honest, and I want to follow my gut. And I think what's so special about Addison Rae and her music career is that it's so authentically Addison. Just like I was saying about her tour at the top of the show, she has such a clear vision for who she wants to be as a pop star, what she wants her sound to be like, what she wants her outfit to look like, what she wants her entire like aura to be like. Like, even there's a video of her leaving Terminal 5 the other night after the second New York show, and she's like hanging out of the sunroof signing autographs. When her album came out, she was doing the same thing, and she just like has this like early 2000s pop star aura that she's like able to create, and like people are, you know, they're holding up the vinyl at the window for her to sign, and it has this like fandemonium that like she has created and kind of encouraged almost. And it's not in a negative sense of early 2000 pop star, because I think, you know, obviously she knows what she's doing and she knows the counter effects of it, but she has that aura of early Britney, early Christina, early 2000s pop stars who just were like the moment. And what's crazy is like she's not even the moment to like the general public. Like, she has a very niche following, but the following is so committed and so consistently obsessed with everything she's doing. I mean, I'm a perfect example. I love everything this girl is doing because there's such a clear vision and it's so well done throughout. And I just think she has such a clear idea of who she is as a pop star. And like she said, this is something that she has always wanted, and she's kind of broken out of this idea of her being a TikToker, because that is how we met Addison Rae. She was posting 15 times a day on TikTok and just trying to get in front of people so people know her name, and she took this route of like being a famous TikToker and then becoming kind of this influencer, it girl, socialite. She was hanging out with Charlie XCX and all these cool girls or whatever, and now she is releasing her album and she's going on these tours. I mean, her debut album debuted at number 4 on the Billboard Top 200. Like, that is really impressive, especially for an artist that like the general public is not listening to. Like, I could play an Addison Rae song in a room full of 100 people on the street, and not everyone's gonna know it. You know, she doesn't have that pull where like everybody knows her songs. Everybody probably knows her name or has heard her name, but she hasn't broken through to the mainstream, but it's intentional. Like, she doesn't want to be a mainstream artist. She wants to be kind of admired and adored by this niche group of people, gay people, who adore her for everything she does, every kooky outfit and fashion choice and song choice or whatever, because like she just has this perfectly clear vision of who she is, and I am fucking obsessed. And even if you think back to my episode I did, what was that? Probably almost a year ago at this point. Yeah, that had to maybe top of this year, maybe like no, it had to be last year. I want to say it was like last fall. I did a whole episode saying that Keke Palmer and Addison Rae are redefining reinvention, and they were able to kind of go from one point to another in different ways, of course. Keke Palmer being, a childhood star, and then going into now who she's become. I mean, she does music, she's in movies, and no one ties her back to True Jackson VP and Aquila and the Bee unless she brings it up. Same with Addison Rae. She's kind of started as this TikToker and has now transferred her vision and her popularity to being a pop star. And it's not an easy thing to do, but I think because Addison had such a clear vision on who she wanted to be and knew it from the start, like she said, TikTok was just an opportunity to push myself towards something I always wanted. And then in the article as well, I forget the exact quote, but she says something along the lines of like, even as a kid, I would tell myself, even if I just dance for myself and create for myself, maybe one day somebody will acknowledge it. But she was creating stuff for herself and that she wanted to do, and it's working, and it's so good. The photos on this shoot are incredible. Her stylist, and I'm sure she has a big say in like what her looks are because she is so creatively forward. Like she knows the vision that she wants. Like they are just nailing it, everything they're doing. I'm obsessed. Cannot get enough. Moving on to the next moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. Now, usually when I talk about this person, Wendy Williams, it's some sad updates or, we're kind of not sure how to feel, but I'm actually feeling kind of optimistic for Wendy in this moment. So she's on the cover of New York Magazine. The article came out yesterday, and they're kind of talking about like people who have been seeing her out and about. She's been at Fashion Week and kind of bringing us up to speed. She didn't give any statements for the article. It was just kind of like they were bringing us up to speed on what's going on with her and kind of like the TLDR kind of thing, but also giving us updates on what's going on with her Fashion Week wise or things like that. So let me read the quotes and then we'll get into my thoughts. The author said, on the last night of New York Fashion Week in September, Wendy Williams, the former talk show host and one-time gossip queen of New York, given permission to leave the locked floor of her assisted living facility where she is held against her will, was seated in the front row of designer Laquan Smith's runway show, showing the world just how well she was doing. Anyone who watched her wondering what was true, looking for signs that she was off or disoriented, would have noticed that her eyes were open unusually wide, as if alarmed or confused, and seemed to bulge. But this was a symptom of her Graves' disease, an autoimmune condition that strains the ocular muscles. They would have seen her teeter a bit on her feet on the way inside, holding onto her bodyguard with one hand and a Birkin-like crock bag in the other, but this could be explained by her lymphedema, sorry if I'm butchering that. This could be explained by her lymphedema, which causes swelling in the feet and ankles with trouble balancing. And now, of course, just reading that, it is so sad to see that, she's teetering because her ankles are swelling and she has these conditions and whatever, and she's given permission to leave the locked floor of her assisted living facility where she's held against her will. That is all so sad. But reading this and knowing that, she has a reason as to why her eyes are bulging because she has this autoimmune disease, or she has this condition where she can't walk because something's going on with her ankles, and all of the things, the reasons that Wendy is in this facility is because they said that she was mentally unwell and couldn't, maintain her finances. I mean, this all started because her guardian or whatever, the conservatorship that she did, they took control of her bank account and she wasn't able to take control of her money, which isn't necessarily true, I don't think. It's very much just kind of seems like people are just controlling her. But I mean, reading all of this, and even if you read the entire article, there's so many people who are like, no, she was totally fine. She held a conversation with me. She knew what she was saying. She knew where she was. She's not as spacey as everybody thinks she is. And even if you think back when she called into the Breakfast Club and talked to Charlamagne a few months ago, we talked about, she was totally fine. She was definitely she wasn't answering as quick as she usually would, but she's getting a little older. She isn't having as many conversations as she used to. Yeah, maybe she's not as sharp as a knife as she used to be, but she was able to hold a conversation and she knew what she was allowed to say and knew what she wasn't, which if you ask me, a mentally unwell person isn't able to know when to, be quiet and when to speak up. She knew oh, I can't answer that. Oh, they won't like it if I say that. So she knows what she's supposed to say and what she can't. She's fully mentally there. Maybe, I mean, Wendy Williams has always been a little off her rocker. Let's get that straight. But she's not mentally unwell in a sense where she's not remembering things and things of that nature the way that they're painting her to be. But the craziest part to me about Wendy Williams' New York Magazine cover isn't the fact that she's out at Fashion Week or that her eyes are maybe bulging a little bit from an autoimmune disease. No. The craziest part to me is the fact that the apartment that she is living in against her will, and an apartment that she does not even want to be living in, is costing her $25,800 a month for an apartment in which she is not allowed to leave without permission, for an apartment that she does not want to be in. $25,800 a month. Not to mention that her estate is also responsible for paying the guardianship lawyers, which costs $10,000 a month. That is damn near $30,000 a month of Wendy Williams' money that is going into places that she doesn't even want to be a part of. She does not want to be living in this place. She does not necessarily need this lawyer if she wasn't in this situation. And the whole reason this whole censorship thing happened with her, the whole conservatorship started, was by them saying that Wendy Williams wasn't responsible with her money. If you want to argue that Wendy Williams wasn't responsible with her money, sure, whatever, fine. But then you're going to go ahead and spend $26,000 on an apartment in which she doesn't even want to be in and she is begging to be let out of? I just don't think financial responsibility is a conversation to be had when this is a situation that Wendy Williams is currently living in. Like, it just seems insane to me to be spending almost $30,000 on living and lawyers when you don't even want to be in this situation. And this is not her spending the money. This is somebody spending the money for her because she's in this conservatorship and her guardian is doing this to her, basically keeping her locked away until she's allowed to be let out. Like, it's just so wild to me that money was the biggest issue, yet we're spending $30,000 a month on situations that don't even need to be spent on. It is unbelievable. And Wendy has said so many times, I don't even want to be here. I want to be at my house in Florida, I believe it was. She was like, I just want to be in my home, sitting outside and like enjoying my life. And I have to be locked away in this New York City apartment that I don't even want to be in. It's so sad. Some positive news though is that in the coming weeks and months, a new medical report is expected to be presented to the court, which could reaffirm the court's previous decision and the guardianship as it stands. So hopefully all of this, and like, I think the point of this magazine cover was to kind of have further proof for court to be like, hey, like, people were seeing her out and about at Fashion Week and she was fine. All of these medical records keep coming back clean. Like, there's no reason in which Wendy Williams needs to be in a conservatorship. Let's wrap this up and let her live her life. Like, she is literally wasting her life away in this apartment. She doesn't even want to like go on air or go on a show or anything. She just wants to enjoy her life and like be able to spend her money how she wants to. So I'm hoping that between the medical records, all of these like New York Fashion Week appearances, calling into these places, doing these interviews and stuff, like they're able to show that like she is mentally well enough to be living, maybe not on her own, maybe she does need some help with her conditions, like aid-wise, like maybe, you know, she needs some help like walking around or things like that, but mentally, like, Wendy is still there. Wendy's still Wendy, and like I said, she's always been a little off her rocker, but like, that's why we love her. So I'm just hoping the day that I get to say like Wendy is out of this is going to be one of the most celebratory episodes of this podcast. We will pop champagne, we will have balloons, it'll be so exciting. So I'm hoping that day comes sooner than later, but this just felt like it was very important to update you guys on because I do talk about Wendy Williams a lot on this podcast. And kind of switching gears, staying in the same idea of like health things, but switching gears to some more negative things, unfortunately. Dolly Parton's sister asks for prayers as the country legend deals with health challenges. So I was going to talk about this story last week when it was announced that Dolly had to push back all of her Vegas shows, but the only thing was like she postponed her shows to a year. She was like, for my health, I need to just push these back, which Dolly Parton, how old is Dolly? Yeah, she's 79 years old. Like, yeah, I understand if you're like going through some health things and you want to push your residency and just like make sure you're in tip-top shape before you perform however many nights, you know, you're going to do it. Totally get it. So I was like, there's not much to talk about here other than like sending Dolly good vibes. But then today her sister posted on Facebook something and I was like, all right, we got to chat about this. So let's go back to last week. She posted on Instagram and said, I want the fans and public to hear this directly from me that unfortunately I will need to postpone my upcoming Las Vegas concert. As many of you know, I have been dealing with some health challenges and my doctors tell me that I must have a few procedures. As I joked with them, it must be my 100,000 mile checkup, although it's not the usual trip to see my plastic surgeon. In all seriousness, given this, I am not going to be able to rehearse and put together the show that I want you to see and the show that you deserve to see. You pay good money to see me perform, and I want to be at my best for you. While I'll still be able to work on all of my projects from here in Nashville, I just need a little more time to get show ready, as they say. Don't worry about me quitting the business because God hasn't said anything about stopping yet, but I believe He is telling me that to slow down right now so I can be ready for more big adventures with all of you. I love you, and thank you for understanding. So she posts this, and I mean, whether or not Dolly wrote this, it screams Dolly's personality through this. So I would be shocked if she didn't have a hand in writing this. And she's saying, you know, I just need to get things checked out. And like I said, she's 80 years old. Yeah, she should be, you know, making sure everything's all right, getting the procedures that she needs. Like, this wasn't as concerning to me until this week where I was like, oh, fuck. Because to me, I'm like, all right, she just got some stuff going on. She can still work. She said she's still getting work done in Nashville. She's still able to get whatever she needs to done at home. She just shouldn't be doing shows every night, which is totally understandable. It's a lot on your body. So that was last week, and then today her sister posted on Facebook and said, "Last night I was up all night praying for my sister Dolly. Many of you know she hasn't been feeling her best lately, and I truly believe in the power of prayer, and I have been led to ask all of the world that loves her to be her prayer warriors and pray with me. She's strong, she loved, and with all the prayers being lifted for her, I know in my heart she's going to just be fine, Godspeed, my sissy Dolly, we all love you." So like that does concern me a little bit, and I will say like, actually, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to speak into existence and say, like, what the unspeakable happening to Dolly Parton would be in the year 2025. Like, I do think that would be my final straw. However, I'm like, what is going on? Like, is everything okay with Dolly? Like, what is happening? I mean, it's Dolly Parton. Like, she is truly a once-in-a-lifetime artist. She is such a talent and a fabulous lady on this earth. And considering that she was, like, ready to go to Vegas, ready to do her residency. And I mean, Dolly Parton isn't doing, you know, big crazy choreo and these crazy shows. Like, she would just be on stage singing, but like, that's what Dolly does. That's what you expect when you go see a Dolly Parton show. So totally fine. Do what you got to do. So I'm just like, what's going on? Like, is everything fine? And like, I really do think, like, if anything happened to Dolly Parton, I do think this country will crumble faster than it ever would, because like, you know, Betty White, that was a big hit. And like, there are some certain people that just feel like a glue in our communities that like we need right now. Like, we need Dolly Parton and her positivity and her comedic timing and just her love and her light and her positivity. So I'm not a religious person. I don't pray or anything, but if, you know, let's all send our good wishes to Dolly, hope that she is okay. I mean, I do think she's going to be fine. It seems like she is in good spirits from what she wrote last week, and like the fact that she's still going to be working in Nashville. I'm like, all right, she's still got that Dolly spark. She just needs, like she said, her 100,000 mile check-in. Like, she is okay, but her sister posting definitely did freak me out a little bit. So I'm like, let's all, you know, send our good love, send our good wishes, and just hope for the best for Dolly. I'm hoping that she has a speedy recovery. I'm hoping that, you know, she is able to go to the doctors. I mean, Dolly Parton has so much money, and like, she is able to get the top care in the world. So I'm sure she's being very well taken care of and will be fine. But of course, we always just want to send our love to Ms. Dolly P, who we love oh so much over here at Too Pop to Handle. So yeah, I hate to end it on some bad news. So we're going to talk about some reality TV and, you know, some brain rot going on in the world, because as I promised you guys, TV recaps are back. I'm so sorry I've been off my game. I just feel like I've been so mixed up in everything happening in the world and with work, and I have some very, very, very fun work things to share with you guys. I'm waiting a little bit before I share with you guys, because I want to just, you know, get in my groove with things, but I promise you it is like, it's really, really cool. Like, I am just loving what I'm doing at work right now, and I feel like, if you know everything that's happened to me this year, work-wise, professionally, as for the podcast, like, I just feel like the universe has never screamed louder in my face than this year. And like, I just feel for the first time in my life that like I'm doing a job that I was actually meant to be doing. But I just want to kind of keep it, you know, with my girls and my close personal friends first before I share it with the internet. But very, very exciting work things going on. But like I said, that has been taking up a lot of my brain space, and like, I just haven't had it in me to recap what these fucking divas on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City are bitching about, because I've just needed some time to like buffer with it and like enjoy some brain rot. But we are back with our TV recap, so let's dive into these episodes. We're not gonna go like scene by scene. I'm kind of gonna do like a TLDR catch up on the season, and then we'll do like full in-depth recaps as the season goes on, because we're on episode 4, I believe now. So I just kind of want to like bring us all up to speed, give you my opinions, and then we'll go episode by episode. So first things first, Lisa Barlow is clearly the target of this season. Like, there always seems to be one housewife that really wears the target on their back. I mean, we saw it with Jen Shaw, of course. We saw it with, oh my God, Monica. Like, you know, there's always one housewife that kind of takes the heat, and Lisa seems to be the one in the hot seat this season. From the jump on the camping trip, all the girls were talking shit about her. They all were worried about her financial situation and her marriage, and who's this man with the Amex that she's charging money to, and like, all very valid questions, but it does seem to be like the takedown Lisa Barlow season, so I'm curious to see how the season progresses. I mean, I love Lisa Barlow typically, but of course, you know, if shady shit's happening, shady shit's happening, so we will see how that kind of pans out. I'm really curious to see, like, where we go from here, because I did watch the preview of tonight's episode that's airing literally right now as I'm doing this recording, and like her and Bronwyn fully make up, which I did not think, out of everybody in the Housewives, I did not think Lisa and Bronwyn would make up. Now, I don't think they're going to be best friends, you know, kissing each other's ass anymore. They're not going to be buddy-buddy, but seeing them, you know, come to an agreement and be civil and like even just catch up on what's going on with their kids and personally and things like that by the end of the conversation, it was big. Like they were truly neck and neck so far this season. They have been at each other's throat, fighting and bitching and screaming at each other. And I mean, Whitney as well with Lisa, but just talking about the Bronwyn of it all, who fucking love Bronwyn, let's make that very, very clear. But yeah, I'm curious to see like who sticks around with Lisa for the rest of the season and like kind of how that all unfolds, because she does seem to have the target on her back. But you know, things can change in a Housewives season just like that. In the snap of a finger, everyone can turn on somebody else. So you never really know what you're getting with these girls. So we will see there. Another big plot line this season seems to be Heather Gay being a, you know, empty nester and all the girls leaving. And there's some mixed feelings, I feel like, between the Housewives of how they feel about Heather being so excited to be an empty nester. But honestly, I don't blame Heather for being excited to be an empty nester and have nobody at home, because when you think about Heather and like her journey that she's been on, even from season 1 and beyond that, like she lived her life as this perfect Mormon wife, this perfect Mormon. She was never, you know, doing anything bad and never going against the grain. And then she had her divorce and everything just kind of came together for her. We're in a time where like it feels like everything was falling apart. I feel like Heather really found who Heather is and not this idea of like, who is Heather as a wife? Who is Heather as a mom? She found out who Heather is just as Heather. And she hasn't been able to be just Heather without the kids at home, which, yeah, of course, it's always sad when you see, I mean, I don't have kids, so I wouldn't know, but I assume it's very sad when your kids leave and they go off to college or they go away or whatever it may be. But like, it's also a good thing because you raise your kids enough to like let them go be on their own, and you know, they can always come home, they can always come back to you. But I don't think Heather's wrong for being excited to be an empty nester. Like, I do think she does deserve this freedom after all the shit that she's gone through in terms of like the relationship with the church and with her ex-husband and with the kids and everything. And like she said, she was like, I've always been the mom. Like my kids didn't go to the dad's house on the weekends. Like they were always with me. So I don't think she's wrong for having these feelings. And I do think it was a little insensitive for the rest of the housewives to like have this opinion on her being excited to have like some Heather time for the first time in her life. And one of the other plot lines that we seem to be seeing is Mary and her son. Again, we've already seen a conversation of them chatting about, you know, his struggles with addiction and things like that. And he says, he's like, yeah, I smoked this morning, which obviously he went to rehab at the end of last season. So not the ideal situation. And it's just so heartbreaking to see them have these conversations over and over again, because I just like, she's given him the help, and Mary Cosby is very well off. Like she can get all the help in the world for this kid, but like, addiction is such a hard topic to deal with, and it's such a difficult thing that like you really can't help somebody unless they want to help themselves. And knowing what's happened with her son since then, and I'm not doing this like gossip blogging, I'm just solely stating facts, but he was arrested earlier last month for assault and trespassing and violating a court order. So like he is just getting wrapped up in these bad situations, and like it's heartbreaking, because at the reunion last year, like Mary was sharing all these updates, and it was so sad. And that one scene, you guys, if you watch, you know the scene from last season where they're talking about his addiction, and she's like, yeah, I've been doing Xanax since I was this age and whatever. Like, it was heart-wrenching. Like, I was like, I cried about this scene. Like, it was so sad. So to see him still struggling like this after Mary's been trying to get help, it's just even more heartbreaking somehow. And I really hope that this season we won't, but like, because of what's going on in real time with the arrest and trespassing and things like that. But like, I just hope that by like next season we get to at least, and maybe he doesn't need to be on camera. Like maybe that's the thing, he needs to be like out and like just separated. But whatever it may be, I just hope that like we can see him fully just like back to his normal self and like not dealing with this addiction and this struggle, because it really is something that's all encompassing. And like, as somebody who grew up in a house with two parents who struggled with addiction, like I've seen it firsthand. Like I know how it completely takes over you and completely is all encompassing. So I just feel for them, and it breaks my heart to watch all of this happen. So I'm hoping we see some type of, 180 with him by next season. And yeah, just very, very sad to watch. Like, it's heartbreaking to see. And then Mary has to go and like listen to Mary, I've had a weird, relationship with Mary Cosby. I didn't love her at the beginning. I thought she was crazy with her church, and then by last season, I was like, you know what, Mary is. She's got a heart, and she just has dealt with a lot of shit in her life, and you got to give her credit where credit is due. So that's like when Mary like has these outbursts at these brunches, or like tells Angie, or what? No, who was it? Tells Meredith to get out of her house because she's done with her shit. Like, yeah, Mary's not dealing with your bullshit. Like, she doesn't give a fuck about how much you're spending on jewelry or this or that. Like, shut the fuck up, get out of my house. Like, Mary is dealing with much bigger fish to fry, and like, not to diminish anybody else's problems on the show, but like, I understand why Mary has these lash outs, and she's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I want to live my life the way that I want to live it because I'm dealing with XYZ outside of all of this. So like, I get what's going on in Mary Cosby's world. And that kind of brings us up to speed on Housewives of Salt Lake City. Of course, there's been some other things. But yeah, I've been liking the season so far. I'm curious to see how it keeps going. Like I said, it's literally premiering right now as I'm recording this, so I'm gonna get off and edit and then watch the episode so I can recap it for you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Too Pop to Handle. If you are listening to us and you're liking what you were hearing, go ahead and leave me a 5-star rating. It is the best way to help support the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe, drop a comment, all the buttons except for dislike and unsubscribe. Hit them all. I would love to have any of your support that you are willing to give. If you would like some extra moments from the week that are just too pop to handle in between podcast episodes, you can go over to my Substack, toopoptohandle.substack.com, or I will have it linked down below, and you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Popping In, where I share extra pop culture moments from the week that were just too pop to handle in between podcast episodes. And if all of that is not enough, you can always follow us on social media at too pop to handle, or my personals at Andrew Ducatola, and stay up to date on what I'm doing all the time, because like I said, I am chronically online, and though I am trying to be less online, I'm still gonna be online a little bit. Like, I'm not gonna completely, like, I'm not gonna be lured and throw my phone into the ocean. Like, I am still gonna be online because I do love the internet, but I'm trying to love it a little less, more of a healthy relationship. But with that, I will catch you guys next week. Bye!